we are live. Welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us for today's live stream event, Craving Attention, How to Capture and Retain the Audience Your Ad Needs. My name is Ashley McManus, and I am the Senior Director of Global Marketing at Affectiva, a smart ad company. I just wanted to give some brief context as people are arriving, and our speakers are going to talk more in depth about this. Today, we're going to dive into some of the latest advancements in visual attention measurement and how it's revolutionizing ad creative effectiveness testing. We will also discuss creative development strategies, how to balance attention and brand goals, and briefly touch on integrating attention metrics into your existing measurement frameworks. So with all of that being said, I am thrilled to host our expert speakers today. We have Duncan Southgate, Senior Director, Global Creative Insights Division at Kantar, and our own Graham Page, who is Global Managing Director of Media Analytics at Affectiva Smart Eye. So with all of that, let's get started. Graham and Duncan, let's have you introduce yourselves, your roles, and maybe touch on what your businesses do at a high level. So maybe let's start with Duncan and then go to Graham.
Hi, Ashley. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. So my history at Kantar is a fairly long one. I've been at Kantar for almost 30 years now. I guess most of you will have heard of Kantar. You may not know that we've just recently updated our overall mission. So we now claim that we are helping you shape your brand future. But we've long been focused on brands, as I guess most of you will know. And I've been particularly focused on brand, communications, and media research in the last sort of 30 years or so. I've had a mix of client-facing roles, a bit of product development, product innovation, product management, and thought leadership as well. So that's all led to my current role, where I'm overseeing our creative solutions. And that's both our survey-based Link Plus product, which I think as most of you will have heard of. It's the industry-leading tool for assessing ads via survey-based approaches. And we also now have a predictive Link AI version of that solution as well, which I'm also overseeing. And so basically what we're trying to do with those solutions is combine our expertise, things we've learned over the years with the latest AI and technology to make sure brands can deliver amazing and effective ads.
Thanks, Duncan. Hi, everybody. I'm Graham Page. Pleasure to be here again today. As Ashley said, I run the Media Analytics Division here at Affectiva. Affectiva is part of the Smart Eye group now. Our division really specializes in using emotion AI technology. We pioneered the emotion AI field. And what that really means is that we use deep learning, machine learning algorithms and AI to understand people's reactions at an emotional level and a cognitive level to events and stimulus and content in particular. So we do a lot of work with Kantar, as you'll hear, in helping businesses create better ad campaigns by understanding the way audiences are likely to respond to those campaigns, or how audiences will respond, for instance, to entertainment content, mainly by using recordings obtained with consent from search panelists while they watch that content. So really being able to see whether people get lit up or not by the content that they're watching, and understand if the narrative is engaging people and indeed commanding their attention, as we'll hear, in the way that advertisers and content producers want. So we spent a lot of time doing that. Been in the business for over 10 years. Have the world's largest database of advertising responses and emotional responses to content. Hopefully we'll have something interesting to say today.
Excellent. Perfect segue. So today's topic is attention. Why is this such a hot topic in the media industry? Why are advertisers suddenly craving attention?
I guess it's a trend, a topic that I've been following for 2 or 3 years now. I would say there's kind of lots of different factors I feel have come together to create a bit of a perfect storm around the topic of attention. And I think you're right to say it's been especially hot in the media industry, but I think it's now becoming more relevant and important in the creative space, which is what we're going to be talking about primarily today. And I think there's lots of talk about the attention economy, because in the digital space, it's much easier to avoid ads now. I mean, we always had ad avoidance with TVs and DVRs and skipping, but in the online space, that's magnified. And skippable ad formats are a great thing. It's much better ad receptivity than non-skippable ads, but they bring with it a challenge of your ad may not capture attention. On top of that, I think the other thing was that the viewability space had grown significantly over many years, and we were doing a good job, I think, of making sure that there was less fraud out there and that ads were at least viewable on the screen. But it wasn't, it wasn't a genius. It wasn't unexpected that it morphed into questions about, well, yeah, just because it's on the screen and it's playing, it's still not good enough. I actually want a human being to pay attention to my ad. So I see why in the media space there's been a lot of concern about making sure that it's we can get beyond viewability and actually find ads that have where people should be able to pay attention to them. But I think the thing I've always been most interested in is that, the intersection between creative and media. And I think that's where the debate is the most interesting right now. If you can find media placements that can capture attention, how can your creative make the most of that opportunity? And that's where I think people are beginning to realize there's lots more still to learn, because it's not a one-size-fits-all measurement approach for those quite different media attention and creative attention needs. But that's where I think I've tracked it to, and where I think we're up to today.
And I think I totally go along with that, Duncan. I think this is in a sense a version of a question that's been around for a long time. I mean, I'm long enough in the tooth in the ad industry to know that that people have always been concerned about whether advertising can command people's attention or not. But as you say, the media environment is so different now. It's so much easier to avoid or skip ads that, I totally understand why, advertisers are so interested in whether people are really paying attention. Because, if I was spending all those millions of dollars, I'd want to know, if people are actually seeing all those impressions or not, and whether, really there's a chance for those things to influence people. So I totally see why this is a hot issue. And, I think there's a lot of, a lot of new metrics such as emotion AI can bring to bear on that topic, but I do also think it is something that people focus on digital advertising, particularly for this question, but it is a perennial question, and if you think about ad formats that have been traditionally linear like TV, there has always been, I think there still is a question about how to ensure the creative really kind of drives attention as much as possible, and again, hopefully that's something that collectively we can help with.
Perfect. So this question's for Duncan, but Graham, feel free to jump in. How are Kantar and Affectiva partnering to address this specifically?
Well, I mean, the good news is we've been in the space for a while, right? So we've already been partnering, as Graham said, we've been working together for over 10 years on having facial coding, emotional measurement in Kantar's link testing products. So there's a lot of history of understanding, and that has always included an attention measure. So we've already got data of over 50,000 ads about both TV ads and digital videos. How are the ads not just generating emotional response, but also just making sure people stick with them, don't get distracted by what else is going on in the room, and carry on looking at the screen. So we've got a massive data set to work from. But the questions have got increasingly sophisticated, and we are now doing a lot more testing of digital videos in various different formats, and how people will typically watch a TikTok is different to how they will typically watch a YouTube video versus an Instagram video. So the questions have got a bit more sophisticated, and the demands on the accuracy of that attention data have become higher. I mean, that's I guess was one of the drivers behind how we've the upgrade we're going to talk about in a minute. But again, we've never ever wanted to measure either emotion or attention in isolation. So a big part of our philosophy is making sure that we are integrating these genuine system one methods, which are the best way to measure both attention and emotional response, in my opinion, with all the things you can get from a good old-fashioned survey where people can tell you what they liked about the ad and how they think it will make them behave in the future. So this comprehensive view of ad effectiveness is what has always brought Kantar and Affectiva together, and that's what we're going to talk about today is just a logical extension of that partnership.
So, Graham, I was hoping you could talk a little bit about the new attention measure and why it needed an upgrade.
Sure. And so, as Duncan was saying, we've worked together for a long time in measuring, I guess, kind of emotional engagement with the content using the facial technology that we have, the measurement of people's facial reactions. But what we're doing with the new attention metric is kind of building upon that. So we start with the same kind of stimulus, as it were, for the metric, which is a recording of a viewer watching a piece of content, which obviously they're usually part of research panels. They're people that have agreed to be recorded. It's all done with consent, but they're being recorded while they watch or while they browse, in the case of digital content. And what we would typically do is measure the facial reactions that they have to indicate engagement. But now we can use that same video to go beyond the facial expressions and look for signals of distraction as well. And one of the things that we've been able to bring to bear, it comes from our if you like, our integration into the Smart Eye group. So we mentioned earlier on, we're part of the Smart Eye group. They are one of the world's largest suppliers to the automotive industry, particularly for driver monitoring purposes. So a lot of technology that Smart Eye brings to bear in the automotive industry is focused on measuring driver distraction. So, are people's eyes on the road, or are they elsewhere? And so there's some really amazing gaze tracking technology, for instance, that the Smart Eye group have available. And we've been able to bring some of that into the media space and apply it to the measurement of viewer attention while they're browsing or while they're watching content. So we've created a metric which looks for multiple signals of distraction. So we've always been able to measure attention using kind of the pose of the head. So are you kind of looking up, down, left, right, and so on. We've got those signals in there as measures of distraction. But we're also able to bring to bear where the eyes are looking on the screen. Now, are they off screen, on screen? And again, that's using that Smart Eye technology. But we're also combining other signals as well, such as whether people are speaking, and whether people are look like they're falling asleep, or are they kind of obscuring their eyes or their face in some way so they can't actually see the screen. So actually, if we can bring up a quick slide that just kind of details the different elements that we have baked into this metric, and if we play a short video, you can kind of see the different elements at work. So you'll see, I'm afraid, a familiar face. This is me recorded another time. You can see my attention level drops as my head moves away from the screen. This is a colleague of ours who is looking at a second screen, and so we know that she's looking off to one side already. But as she looks further away, you can see the attention levels drop. Again, it works on mobile as well as desktops. There's another colleague looking at his phone, and you can see as he looked away, attention dropped. Again, just using the eyes, you can see, facing the camera again on a phone, but looking away, you see attention levels are indicated to drop. In this case, we can see whether people are looking down, which is really hard for a lot of desktops. Again, if people kind of are looking off center, but actually then look back away from the screen, we can pick that up purely from the eyes. And then again, as people speak, that's usually a good sign they're not really paying attention to content. Likewise, if they look like they're falling asleep, then again, we can't say they're paying full attention. And again, if things like raising a cup to the face, it obscures the eyes, attention is seen to drop. But interestingly, this is a case where attention isn't dropping because you can see our colleague here, Sasha, is actually still looking at the screen with one eye as she raises the cup. So again, we can pick up a lot of different signals that I think collectively give us a really interesting perspective on whether people are distracted or not, and we can use multiple signals and indeed break that down into kind of why they weren't paying attention, what sort of attention they were paying. So it's quite a detailed measure that I think moves us forward, but it's also then something that we're deploying, as Duncan was saying, alongside the existing measures of engagement, and not just passive attention but active attention. Are people paying enough attention to actually engage with the content and show it on the face? So we have a pretty comprehensive picture, I think, of how people are responding, and attention is a big part of that. Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to say that this is these gaze components that are now in facial code. Now they're at this level of sophistication. It really, I think a lot of people think attention measurement for an individual needs to be eye tracking, but obviously that's much harder to scale than facial coding is. So we've got now something that gives us a much more granular and sensitive attention measure, but it's also easy to scale, easy to combine with survey-based methods that are all around the world. So that's why we're really pleased to have seen these Affectiva updates, and really pleased to be deploying them. And they're already flying out of the door.
Awesome. Can you share a little bit more about what we've seen already with this attention measure?
Yeah, absolutely. The upgraded version is only launched in Q4 last year, but loads of clients are already really positive about it. It's gone straight into all of our live studies, essentially, without any debate. and I think people are already finding it helpful in terms of diagnosing their ads, as well as understanding a new component of their ad success. We've got more to do on that this year as we start to bed it into people's ongoing testing protocols. But yeah, the initial responses have been very positive.
Excellent. Also, Duncan, what has the client response been to this attention metric so far, now that you spoke a little bit about?
Yeah, I think it's, again, on one level, it's nothing new, but they've always known we had an attention measure. But I think it's, as we've started to say, look, we've now got an attention measure that is a more helpful diagnostic. That's helpful, and it's also addressing questions they've got coming from the media space of, well, we're spending this time and effort on optimizing our media buy so we can get more attention, but there's no point buying a slot that has the potential to deliver more attention if your ad is then failing to take advantage of that. So I think I think we're going to get more and more of those creative attention questions coming through into 2024. And so we're just happy now to have something that, rather than it being tucked away as if you ask us about it, we've got an attention measure. Now it's front and center. Now we've got a brand new framework, and we're helping people to walk them through how they can actually use attention as a fundamental part of the way they analyze the success of their ad.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So now, for you both, as we look towards the future, what's next for measuring attention?
Shall I pick that up first, Duncan, and then you can?
Yeah.
I think obviously we've created a measure that's very focused on, kind of signals of distraction, and we're combining that, as Duncan was saying, with then the more active measures of attention in terms of people's reaction to the content itself. But I think the technology we have available to us now, I think, can go further than that. So I think some of the things we're looking at next is going back to that technology that we're sourcing from the automotive division. I think we can go beyond just the signals of distraction and start looking at, more on kind of where is attention focused within the screen. And I think that'll be a big step forward, particularly given that the way a lot of these algorithms work is that they don't require a lot of calibration. So many of you will be familiar with the kind of traditional eye tracking calibration exercise where you have to follow a dot around the screen, and obviously that's not something that you can do if you're monitoring a driver's vision, right? You can't get in your car and follow a dot around the screen before you set off. So a lot of those calibration, a lot of those algorithms don't use those kind of calibration vectors. And again, we're not quite there yet, but I think it's quite within our reach to then apply some of that tech into more of this attention measurement space and look at attention within the screen without necessarily having to make people go through a complicated procedure, which again just will make more accurate attention measurement a lot more scalable, which I think is where we've always come from.
And I guess from the Kantar point of view, it's really about making sure that we activate this and learn from it at scale. So we've created a very simple Kantar attention framework, which helps put this in context. So it just gives you a simple summary of how well your ad is delivering on playback, whether the ad's being watched in the digital context, and then on top of that, what's the level of passive attention you're achieving, and when second by second does that drop off, and when are you generating more active attention or a more deeper emotional engagement, and that's the best bit of attention, right? So attention obviously works at different levels and depths. So with that framework, we're putting that into every single study that includes this. That includes facial coding, and that allows us to identify whether your ad is generating more attention than an average ad or not, and if so, why. And then we can use the other metrics in the study to help us understand, what is it exactly that is capturing attention, or if we're seeing attention fall off, maybe the ad needs re-editing to be more impactful overall. So at an individual ad level, I think we're going to see attention become just part of the analytic routine. Particularly for digital ads. And I think we're expecting to see lots more learning. We already know some things about how attention varies by placement and by format, and you'll see lots more of that if you sign up to the webinar in February. But I also think we're going to get more sophisticated in the questions we start answering about, how much attention do you need if you're this kind of brand in this kind of category with these kinds of branding cues. So I think we'll be doing more general meta learnings around attention, more validation of how attention builds brands, drives sales. But I think we'll be also starting to tailor those meta-analyses to individual brands and categories. So, there's just stacks more to learn. It's, we've got the measurement in place now, so that this is the fun, where the fun really starts. We can start to find out what it's going to tell us.
Nice. And I think you might have answered my last question, which was, how can people listening in today learn more?
Yep. Great question.
We have this webinar.
I think, as Duncan was saying, there is a joint Kantar and Affectiva webinar on the calendar for the 28th of February. So if people want to hear more, we would strongly encourage you to sign up to that and come and hear more. We'll be going into a lot more detail about not just the measures, but the kind of things that we're seeing. Looking across all the studies that we're doing together and have already done together. So there'll be a lot more kind of meta learning and detail than we've been able to go into today. But also we'll cover a lot of case studies, so be able to talk about, if you like, some of the do's and don'ts, highlight some examples of creative that's done a really great job at driving attention and driving engagement, and maybe share a little bit about less successful approaches. So yeah, lots of detail and case studies in that. And if you're interested in this topic, I hope it will be something that's worth going to. And then also, as you can see on the screen, there's you can obviously get in touch with us directly at both Affectiva and Kantar and just find out more directly from us via that route.
All right, so that is all we have time for. I want to thank both of our presenters, Duncan and Graham, once again for making the time to share this with us today, and all of you for attending. And hopefully this gave some clarity on some of the amazing work Affectiva and Kantar are doing. Once again, please reach out to us if you have any questions, follow us on social media, or sign up for our newsletter so you don't miss our next virtual event. And thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are in the world.
Thank you.